Are you sure you want to do this?
Alien Romulus promised to bring the franchise back to its terrifying roots, and well, it definitely brought something back. The latest installment feels like the alien you remember, but only if your memory is as fuzzy as a VHS tape left in your RCA TV-VCR combo. Been gathering dust in the attic since 1996. The first two Alien films are two of my all-time favorites. I even liked the much maligned Alien 3. But Resurrection should have been left buried. Prometheus had a couple of quality moments, and Convenient was just straight up dreadful. And yet the scrappy little franchise refuses to give up, and like a wounded lover, hoping that it will never let me down again, I keep coming back to give every new Alien film a chance just because I love the IP so much. So while Alien Romulus is a return to the classic Alien formula, it doesn't do anything new to push that formula in a different direction. It doesn't fail as hard as the previous films did, and is a competent film overall. But enough of the preamble, let's dive deeper into what did and didn't work for Alien Romulus. Alright, my friends, don't forget before I begin to like and subscribe. And we're going to begin of Alien Romulus, set between the events of Alien and Aliens. Romulus is fan service at its best and worst. From the moment these misfit space marines, aka morons, set out to search for the derelict spacecraft and nab its cryotubes, you know you're in for a wild ride when absolutely nothing could go wrong. Spoiler, everything goes wrong. This crew of angsty teens who look like they just graduated high school ignore all safety protocols and soon find themselves stumbling into a lab-grown facehuggers. Fede Alvarez seemed to think the only way to make this film is to use literally every iconic shot from the first two films, with a few from Alien 3 sprinkled in for good measure. While it was nice to see, it's lazy filmmaking that hinges too much on viewers' nostalgia. I mean, what about all the newbies that's never seen any Alien film? All these homages would be totally lost on them. I did appreciate it first, but soon I got sick of it after about 10 minutes with my brain constantly saying, that shot's from Alien, that shot's from Aliens, that's from blah 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 blah. It all felt shoehorned in and came off more as a distraction to viewers who've seen the first films countless times, aka moi. But of course, Romulus does have some cool action sequences that I enjoyed, beyond most of the situations being ripped from a superior moment from Alien and Aliens. But one particular sequence involving zero gravity acid alien blood was pretty cool and innovative, and it felt a lot like a sequence from a video game, and it actually reminded me a lot of Dead Space. But overall, I think they played it safe, too safe in my opinion, and basically just remade the earlier films. It could be argued that the hard deviation from the classics could be part of the reason the sequels aren't received as well. Every Alien film is unfairly compared to the first two, essentially setting up the entire franchise to fail based on that alone. What can you do when the first two movies are just two of the greatest movies ever fucking made? But all that babbling aside, Romulus is a solid Alien movie and an enjoyable popcorn movie in general. But I do have to take a little moment to go on a tangent about this one particular point that drove me the most nuts through the entire movie, because Romulus has committed the worst prequel sin of all, failing miserably at using the classic quotes from those movies. In Romulus, there's a scene in the last act where the android Andy blows up a Xeno's head to pieces with a machine gun, then proceeds to say the iconic Ripley quote from Aliens, "Get away from her, you bitch." And oh god, does it ever fail hard. Quote recycling is an unfortunate trope in sequel-prequel films, and they never come close to the impact of hearing classics like
But stay frosty.
Or my personal favorite,
Did IQs just drop sharply while I was away?
for the first time hearing those, it doesn't compare. So when it's recycled like that, it feels really weak. But add to the fact that canonically, it doesn't even make sense for Andy to say that, considering this takes place before the 1986 film. And why would an android, even after the much needed personality upgrade he gets later on, why would they say anything like that? It just not a thing that an android would say, and it didn't fit into the world. And it was one of those moments where they're like, oh, the crowd's just going to love it when we say this line. They're going to jump out of their seat and they're going to like clap and cheer. I'm like, no. I mean, it was the most contrived moment in the entire film, and it fell flatter than a Xeno's head getting crushed under an armored personnel carrier. I can see the film executive meeting now. Timid female protagonist that eventually turns badass, check. Android that doesn't seem to know which side they're on, check. Annoying, frantic character that you know will die the second they're seen on screen, check. The cast of Romulus is about as boringly basic as you can get, with the classic archetypes, highlight being the new protagonist Rain Carradine. Imagine the 1979 Ripley, but with no personality at all, and seems to have only been hired because she's cute, thus unassuming. Then we have Andy, the brilliantly named android companion to Rain, who ended up being the most interesting character in the film after receiving a personality upgrade to become actually useful. The rest of the film just ticks off every requirement for films these days. We got Tyler, Rain's ex-boyfriend, apparently, and he's getting the overconfident dude that the executives really want you to like, but he just doesn't pull it off. And his buddy Bjorn, who's just a dick to everyone for no reason, and you're relieved when he dies. Then we have Navarro, the token, bald, Asian, non-binary lesbian with an attitude, because every film has to have that one of those now. Lastly, we have the pregnant Princess Kay, who you know is going to get killed in some awful way the second you meet her. The main issue I have with the cast is that none of these characters are likable at all. Rain is played competently by Cailee Spaeny, and she's somewhat likable, but mainly because the actress has one of those girl next door face that makes you want to root for her regardless. But again, her performance wasn't anything to write home about. And yes, of course, in the end, she lives. She's the hero. They never gave us a reason to like or care about the other characters at all. I found them very annoying and generic, and frankly couldn't wait for them to die. Now on to the visuals, and with it being an alien sci-fi film, visuals are always a huge part of these movies, and one of the parts that I always look forward to see if they do anything new or just recycle old designs, and that's mainly what they did. Director Alvarez and his visual team recreated a lot of the designs in the originals by expertly combining advanced CGI, innovative practical techniques to create chillingly lifelike xenomorphs. And with every alien film, there's always a slightly different version of the xeno, but I always felt that was kind of pointless considering we hardly ever get a good look at them, which is part of what makes them so terrifying. But in Romulus, they had what I thought were way too many close-ups, made the Xeno look quite robotic. I thought that they showed the alien way too much because less is always more when it comes to scaring the audience. But I found these versions to be too sexy to be scary. Their faces were altered to almost be attractive, complete with chiseled jaw and bad attitude. The most shocking moment isn't the constant facehugger attacks, but the eventual revelation that Romulus somehow made the xenomorphs relatable. I was rooting for them in the end because in reality, the characters sucked so much I didn't care when they died. Hashtag did I mention the characters suck. But in conclusion, Romulus does deliver on all fronts. Action horror and some mostly unintentional comedy, and a roller coaster of questionable decisions. But if you love the franchise, you'll either laugh, cry, or horror, or all of the above, preferably in that order. Rating-wise, I give it a 3.5 out of 5. Romulus feels more like a remake of the originals, starring the cast of Saved by the Bell. It does have some exciting moments, but lacks anything original. Recommended for a movie night with friends, some drinks, snacks, and lots of mystery science theater-like commentary. Thank you for watching my review. If you like this movie, please let me know what you think down below. And beyond that, don't forget to like and subscribe. And don't forget, friends, to keep writing.